Hello everyone, and thank you all for your attention, for joining this stream. This is community chat, traditional live stream for our community. This is the only reason why I make this stream, so that we will have an opportunity to exchange opinions in real time. So thank you all, and many thanks to all the members of our community who will watch this live stream in a recording. Today is of course 21st of April. Now it's 6 o'clock, and well, let's start this stream. As usually, I will share with you some news in the first part, and then I will join you in a conversation in chat. And dear friends, in case new members are watching this live stream, if you have any question or any commentary that you want me to react, please either write capital Q before the question or entire sentence in a capital letter. So this way I would not miss it. And just in case you want to absolutely make sure that your question or comment is not missed during these streams, which I will have on Mondays on YouTube and on Fridays on Rumble, then of course I will start this Q&A part with questions that I might receive through PayPal, Boosty, or on my Patreon page. Okay, that's been said. Let's go through some news now. And first of all, of course, I have to start with the reports about tragic death of head of Catholic Church, Pope Francis. Lately, he was experiencing some health issues, and according to latest reports, he was struggling with pneumonia and also stroke. According to latest reports that I see, he died as a result of a stroke. Of course, big tragedy for Christianity, for Catholic Christians. First of all, my condolences to all Catholics. And some may ask what kind of impact this might have on Catholic Christianity, and I think this is a fundamental question, because lately we all see rise of traditionalism in the Western world, conservatism, and therefore maybe there is a quite high chance that our next pope will be more like traditionalist, not really as reformist as a previous pope or the popes even. And we all know that Catholic Church did undergo quite tremendous changes, and also Anglican Church, by the way, Protestant Church, including Anglican Church. And there are many people in the Western world, as far as I understand, not really happy with all these changes when Church is moving away from traditional stance. And maybe that's why there is quite a big influx into Orthodox Christianity in the Western countries, especially among younger generations. And yes, maybe there is a high chance that some traditionalist person will become a next pope, and this might actually further increase influence of Catholic Church or the Vatican in this world. So in many ways, of course, this is a major development, and many things will be dependent who is going to be next head of Catholic Church. I'm not an expert, of course, in religious stuff. I'm not an expert in theology. I'm just an ordinary Orthodox Christian, so therefore I cannot say much about all this stuff. But I think there is a chance that due to rise of traditionalism, or resurgence of traditionalism in the West, next pope may be quite conservative one. and that will increase influence of Catholic Church. And maybe will stop outflow of the people from Catholic Church towards other how should I say, towards Protestantism or Orthodoxy, or anyways, let's continue with some more news. And of course, I have to mention this report, by the way, that according to Reuters news agency, Houthi rebels once again struck U.S. aircraft carriers, Harry Truman and Carl Vinson. This is statements that Houthi rebels themselves are making. And I saw a video, by the way, of one of the commanders of Houthi rebels who was stating that as a result of latest strikes, they actually managed to damage Harry Truman aircraft carrier. Of course, I cannot confirm this information. I was searching for some additional information, and no more or less respectable media outlet reported about it, because they also cannot know, isn't it? Pentagon is like a fish, saying nothing about these attacks, and therefore we cannot know for sure. But as I said many times before, one day something might go wrong in air defense of these strike groups, and some of the missiles or drones or Houthi rebels may actually reach aircraft carriers, and maybe exactly this has happened in Red Sea. If I'm not mistaken, Harry Truman is operating in the Red Sea and Carl Vinson in Arabian Sea. But I could be wrong on that. Maybe both carriers are in the Red Sea. But anyways, this is a big deal. Obviously, if Harry Truman received strike, then I guess in next several days, Pentagon will recall this aircraft carrier for damage assessment and potential repairs if needed. So let's see. Let's follow their news on this matter, and we will find out eventually, I guess. But it's gonna be a huge deal, obviously, if Houthi rebels, despite all these heavy strikes that US is conducting on daily basis, if Houthi rebels not just did not lose battle capabilities or long-range strike capabilities, but even damaged their aircraft carrier. That is going to be huge. Also, dear friends, I want to share with you this news that I posted on my Telegram and Twitter X page, that thousands of US federal employees reportedly gained their accidental access to a Google Drive folder containing confidential documents, ranging from White House floor plans to vendor bank details and more. Major data handling labs under scrutiny now, and this has become quite an issue nowadays, isn't it? Because also there were reports that Pentagon was once again sharing some secret or classified information on a Signal messaging platform, and there was accusations towards Pat Hexed, head of Pentagon, just the day before yesterday. I believe that scandal was kicking off, and now this report that thousands of people actually received potentially classified information. So there is some sort of chaos in Washington, and it would be better if new administration will deal with this issue, because this is damaging to US in so many levels, isn't it? From reputational standpoint, and also from a security standpoint. I mean, you cannot share to thousands and thousands of people without potentially classified information who has no access and should not have access to this, right? So it's definitely an issue. Also, reports are coming in that Israel is unlikely to strike Iran without Trump's endorsement. So the Israeli government will not dare to strike Iran's nuclear infrastructure facilities without direct approval and support from US President Donald Trump. Financial Times reported, citing Israeli and Arab diplomats. In the review, Israel will refrain from military actions unless backed by their White House, out of fear of alienating Trump and losing his backing, as well as due to concerns that unilateral strikes on Iran without US involvement would have minimal impact. And if true, by the way, if financial times are correct, then well, this is I will consider this a good news, because Israeli strike on Iran will definitely mean next level of escalation in the Middle East, because Iran is not a country with which or with whom Israel can mess around, and Tehran already proved that on several occasions, right? So it would be better if some sane people in Netanyahu's administration, if there are any such, will prevail, and Netanyahu will not authorize these possible unilateral strikes on Iran. And as far as I understand, due to progress in the talks between representatives of Tehran and Washington, White House is not that keen, at least for now, to get involved in hostilities against Iran in military ways. So probably, world can avoid yet another regional war and a crisis. And when it comes to bigger Middle East, we have this report that I shared also on my Telegram, that Russian Black Sea Fleet detachment docks in Algeria. And on your screen you can see Russian diesel electric submarine, which is I forget her designated name of the submarine, but I believe NATO calls these ones black holes because they cannot detect them. And because this is detachment of the Black Sea, in the Black Sea, Russia is not operating with nuclear submarines, only diesel electric submarines. And I guess a few more vessels also visit Algeria. This is due to Algerian-Russian military cooperation pact. And this is also a message to France, by the way, because we all know attitude of the current leadership of France towards Russia. And we also know that relationships between France and Algeria are extremely tense. Just recently, Algeria expelled 12 French diplomats, and I guess France already responded or will respond in a same manner. And so, yes, tensions are high, and Russia is clearly demonstrating where Russian stand is. So it will be better for Paris not to mess around Algeria, because. And I remind dear friends that according to some reports, officially unconfirmed the reports, Algeria is going to be first country which will start operate with the Russian 5th gen fighter jet Su-57 exporter modification. And there are also plenty of other examples of military cooperation between Russia and Algeria. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Russian Defense Ministry, during their past Easter ceasefire, Kiev regime violated the ceasefire 4,900 times. 4,900 times. So therefore, for Kiev regime, there was no ceasefire, by the way. On some areas, on a line of contact, there were calm. Situation was calm, and I shared today a video on my Telegram where Russian and Ukrainian militaries were actually, talking to each other to make sure that there will be no misunderstandings on the ground, and both sides were evacuating their wounded from a line of contact. But in general, Kiev regime was not really honoring this ceasefire, and these numbers clearly demonstrate that. Almost 5,000 breaches of the ceasefire. That says it all, isn't it? And obviously, Moscow will make all the necessary adjustments to its policies when it comes to all these talks about temporary ceasefires. It's just pointless. It's just pointless, right? There was an energy ceasefire that Kiev regime did not honor it. Now, Easter ceasefire that Kiev regime did not honor it. So, even any talks about future ceasefires is just pointless, useless, waste of time. for Russia, in my personal opinion. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that, military operations, of course, resumed after ceasefire has ended, midnight 21st of April, and we have this report that Russian troops are conducting military operations in the vicinity of Garnal settlement in the Kursk salient area. This is only settlement, by the way, that is where Kiev regime still has its presence in the Kursk salient area on this borderline strip between Sumy and the Kursk region, and this is Garnal village. I guess before end of this week, or most likely before end of this week, maybe in next 2-3 days, Garnal will be liberated also, and that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it for this whole disastrous story of Kiev regime's invasion into Kursk salient area. I remind you, dear friends, that during this invasion that started in August 2024, Kiev regime in Kursk salient direction lost over 75,000 military personnel and thousands of pieces of military equipment, mainly Western made. And also about 15 brigades of Kiev regime were destroyed time after time. Brigade was sending, it was obliterated, then this remnants of brigade were sent back. Additional manpower was attached to this brigade, and it was sent again into Kursk region, and this circle was continuing for many months, and overall that's from where this overall number of over 75,000 casualties on side of Kiev regime is coming from. Nothing to be said about losses of military equipment and morale, by the way. It was a huge disaster, isn't it, for the Kiev regime? Also, when it comes to manpower issues of Kiev regime, let's look at this video, by the way. Just you may not believe in this. This is attempt of forceful mobilization by representative of criminal regime of Zelensky, this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And let's start from the beginning. If you did not notice, as you can see, there is a person with a small kid, by the way, and this representative of Kiev regime, so-called recruitment officer, is threatening him with a AK. It's a AK, I believe, assault rifle, right? And look at this guy from here. He was hiding initially, but probably they all had enough, and they overcome this fear and attack this terrorist, basically, that was armed, and he dropped his weapon and just ran away. That's what is happening, by the way. And once more and more people will overcome fear on Kiev-controlled territory, this type of situation is going to repeat itself on daily basis, and these recruitment so-called officers will find no hideout in Kiev-controlled territory or in territory of this so-called Ukraine. They will either have to flee country, or they will be fined by people, and most likely they will end their life badly, right? Because people not gonna forgive or forget what they were doing, right? But video is quite telling, by the way, that people have, fed up so much that they are attacking now armed representatives of the regime and beating them up. And there were already cases, number of cases actually, when recruitment officers and their elements that were involved in this forceful mobilization was executed. Sometimes on the spot, sometimes they were ambushed and killed there. So process is already underway. And hate towards these people is tremendous on Kiev-controlled territory. Let's continue with some more news. And RIA Novosti is reporting that President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, signed today law on strategic partnership with Iran. So I believe Iran's president will sign this law also today. Maybe he already did sign. So therefore, this I will say this agreement on strategical partnership between Russia and Iran is in force now, and their two countries are strategical partners officially. Although relationships between Iran and Russia was very warm and friendly already, and is improving on regular basis, which is great news, by the way, great development for both countries and for stability in the region. Vzglyad newspaper is also reporting, and I think this is important, that head of EU, von der Leyen, threatens TikTok, X, Apple, and Meta because she wants more censorship. I mean, these people, by the way, that love to talk about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, human rights, democracy, pluralism, and so on, that's their real face. That's what they really are. They hate alternative opinions. They just hate it. And they want to control absolutely everything, including thoughts of the people, right? And they will go all the way, by the way. They will go all the way, and they're most likely, they will, at one point, they will start introducing either extreme levels of their censorship, or they will just straight ban these social platforms. Right, so European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Ursula washing machine, as I'm calling her, has stressed that the EU rules will apply equally to big tech companies regardless of their origin, despite the criticism from the Trump's administration. According to her, European Commission intends to strictly apply all digital laws of the European Union in relation to large tech companies, regardless of who runs them and where they are located. Politico writes, she stressed the rules adopted by our co-legislators must be respected, adding that the European Commission has already brought case against TikTok, X, Apple, and Meta. And I remind you, dear friends, that in a number of countries in Europe, already there is quite restrictions in place. And Rumble, for example, I believe in France is banned, maybe in some more countries in Europe, right? So soon maybe these platforms will share the same fate. I don't know. Or either that, or level of censorship on EU territory will be just enormous. You would not be able to write anything, literally. That did not go hand to hand with the Brussels propaganda. You write something, your account will be shut down, and you might actually end up in police custody. And I remind you, dear friends, that just in UK, I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago, isn't it, that I reported that according to statistics, just in 2023 in UK, over 12,000 people were arrested for posts that they were writing on some social networks. For posts, and I can believe that some of those people may actually threaten somebody, which is on which you have to react. You cannot threaten persons, right? You cannot threaten other individuals in real life or on internet. But you can express opinion. You can be critical, right? You should be able to express your opinion freely about whatever issues you want, right? But because there is a huge censorship in Europe and many topics are taboo, you cannot say nothing about certain topics. Well, that's the results, by the way. Thousands of people being arrested just because some of them are saying that man is man, woman is woman, and there is just two genders, nothing else. That's how it is. And they might be investigated for that because in Europe, this is a hate crime. If you say obvious that there is a man and a woman, that's it. End of story, right? There is no nothing in between. Nothing. Just man and woman. That's it, right? Let's be real here. But if you say so, in Europe, in a number of European countries, you may end up in a prison for hate speech or something, you know? Or if you criticize some migration policies of the countries, you're gonna call racist straight away. Why, for God's sake? I mean, I have a right to say that, you know what, maybe we should impose some more strict rules for migration into Russia. For example, I am in Russia, in Moscow, so I may have such opinion, right? I may not be stronger, I'm not being in opposition to migration because I know perfectly well that Russian economy needs more people, right? So therefore, I'm not against migration. All I want, for example, in my personal, if it comes to my personal opinion, is to make sure that people that are coming to Russia at least know some Russian, right? They can speak Russian. It is essential, isn't it? For many reasons, by the way, including to make sure that these people are adapting adequately and are able to protect themselves, right? And their rights. And to make sure that there is no disturbances in the social fabric. So I think it is necessary that work migrants should have, for example, knowledge of Russian. It's basics, right? Also, of course, people who comes to Russia don't have to have, I mean, they have to be thorough check to make sure that these are not criminals, right? If anybody has some criminal record, then sorry, I mean, stay in your country, that would be better, right? I can say this, by the way, no one gonna call me freaking racist because this opinion has nothing to do with race, right? Or ethnicity or anything at all. It's just some basic stuff. But if I was living in UK or in France or in Germany or in some other countries in Europe, and if I say exactly the same, probably police will come and arrest me for some hate crime. Am I correct, by the way, or am I exaggerating something here? So that's the situation in Europe. And these people love to talk about democracy and freedom of speech and human rights, while in reality they are fascists, by the way. That's what they are. Modern European bureaucracy, modern European elites are fascists. It is what it is. And I will end this part of news update with this information that gold, by the way, reached yet another historical maximum, $3,400 for per ounce. This is a new record. So $3,400 for ounce. That's quite something, isn't it? And even though I'm not an expert, by the way, in finances or economy, you know, I'm kind of glad that I was saying that it's worth to invest in gold if you have such opportunity. I was saying this 2-3 years ago, and veterans of our community know this, isn't it? And I believe this is not the peak of the demand on gold. I guess it will not take much longer, and gold will reach $4,000 for ounce, potentially even higher than that. And I don't think this is this process can be stalled, because on one hand you have trade war, in other hand, due to this trade war and the sanctions war, there is a process of de-dollarization, so the dollar is losing volume, plus US is printing these freaking dollars in trillions and trillions in addition to ones that already exist. So therefore, this excess amounts of dollars devaluating this currency, and we all understand that this whole stock markets and all that stuff is a bubble, right? And therefore, people that have money, a lot of it, they are looking for some alternatives, and many of them are investing in gold and other commodities, right? And prices are increasing and increasing, and this process will continue. This process will continue because dollar will never regain its position. I mean, it's just not happening. And process of de-dollarization and the weakening of the dollar will continue at least next 5 to 10 years, I think, and then dollar will find a new threshold in world economy. It will still be reserve currency, but world reserve currency, but one of the few. If now dollar is still main reserve currency, in about 10 years time, there are going to be at least several other currencies. Hopefully, BRICS will come out with its own currency. And there might be some other currencies that will gain momentum. So dollar would not be main reserve currency, but still there will be high demand on dollar. So it will find some new niche, right? And then things will stabilize, I guess. But until then, we're going to see de-dollarization. We're going to see devaluation of the dollar, and therefore further increase of prices on commodities, including gold. That's how I see situation. But yet again, I'm not a financial expert, so therefore my reading of the big picture could be mistaken. Who knows, right? Anyways, dear friends, this is it when it comes to news update. And now let's go through chat. And once again, thank you all, dear friends, for participating in this stream. I can see more than 200 of us right now on the stream, and thank you all for your attention. And let's go through some Q&A part now. Questions, comments. It's a community chat after all. So Nikos, our friend from Greece, wonderful Greece, is asking. I'll start with something lighter. Will Ovechkin be given a Medal of Honor by the Russian president? Will he accept it, or is he still bullied into hating his country like in 2022? Well, if it's you mean Ovechkin, isn't it? Or if you mean Ovechkin, then Ovechkin never turned his back on Russia, dear friend. Never. And I believe during the last presidential elections, he was actually a representative of Russian President Vladimir Putin in a presidential campaign. So if you mean Ovechkin, I mean, I don't know if he will receive any medals, by the way. How could I know that? But if a Russian president will decide to give him some order, medal, or whatever for his great achievements in a sport, then why would he refuse to accept it? I mean, he's a patriot of Russia, as far as I understand, a great sportsman. And yet again, during the last presidential elections, I believe he was a special representative of Putin during the election campaign. So, I mean, that's how it is. And also, Nikos is asking, Duran, who are usually positive, have made a couple of scary videos about the world state. They think that the war with China will happen and Europe will send troops to Odessa. Your thoughts? Well, first of all, when it comes to Duran, I guess everybody is familiar with this channel, but in case there are newcomers to alternative media that are watching this live stream or will watch this live stream in recording, I will tell you that Duran is one of the greatest channels in alternative media. Hosts of Duran Show, by the way, Alex Christoforou and Alexander Mercouris are great leaders of alternative media. And if by chance someone is unfamiliar with this project and the hosts, under every my video, basically on YouTube, and every my news update, there is a recommendation list where you can find the links to Duran channel. And when it comes to question itself, war with China and the deployment of European troops to Odessa, well, unfortunately, I have to say that I have to repeat myself. Basically, I was saying for many years that eventually, probably certain forces that are in charge of the Western ruling class probably will provoke a global war in which China will be involved. At least risk of that is quite high. But we cannot know for sure, isn't it? But way things are turning right now, is quite telling. US wants to get out of this proxy war with Russia now and focus more on China, right? But I don't know. In my personal opinion, by the way, Western ruling class had a plan to basically conduct regime change, orchestrate regime change in Russia, then turn Russia away from China and provoke conflict between China and Russia. And this way, Western ruling class was hoping, in my opinion, to get rid of two main competitors. First of all, China and also Russia. Excuse me. I think that was what was a major plan of the Western ruling class when they start escalating with Russia, right? And I think some of the forces in the West still are operating in this mindset, and that's why they want to provoke a regional war in the Middle East to cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources, which will force Beijing to further increase its dependence on Russian energy sources. And if in that case, somehow Western ruling class will manage to orchestrate regime change here in Russia, or somehow move Russia away from China, obviously Beijing may end up in a situation when they will think that they have no option but to go on offensive and secure closest energy fields to make sure that their economy will not collapse completely, and where main energy fields from China are. It's in Central Asia. Let's take a look at their map, by the way. It's in Central Asia and Russian Far East, right? Russian Siberia and the Far East. So this is China, isn't it? And now China has two major lines of energy supply. One is Russia, another is Middle East. And if Western ruling class will provoke regional war, which will obviously shut down navigation through Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait, then obviously China is cut off from this major link, right? And only way they will receive big enough volumes of energy is Russia. And that means Chinese dependence on Russia will increase even further. It's already high, but will reach strategical levels. And at that point, I think that's what mindset of the Western ruling class is, at least some groups there. And if at that point they manage to somehow orchestrate regime change in Russia, put their puppets in the government and move Russia away from China, Beijing may actually, start thinking that they are out of options, right? Only way to secure energy is to go military, go on offensive, and there are yet again closest fields, by the way, energy fields, gas fields, oil fields, are in Central Asia, namely Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan. Kazakhstan is rich with their oil, first of all, although they have plenty of gas, obviously, and Turkmenistan is very rich with their gas, although they have quite a volume of oil too. These two republics especially are rich with their energy sources, and Russia, by the way. Russia's Far East and everything east of Ural Mountains, basically, is one way or another, but it's packed with their resources, right? Energy, gas, oil, coal, you name it. Everything is there. So that's what Western plan was, in my understanding. And yet again, some groups probably have very same mindset, and they are still pushing this strategy. So therefore, answer on the question, will Western eventually provoke war with China? Answer is yes, because they cannot face the reality. They cannot acknowledge, they are just incapable of acknowledging that they are no longer main power in this world. There are some alternatives, right? They cannot live with that. So therefore, in their attempt to maintain their relevance on the geopolitical scale, they will go all the way and probably will provoke war with China. One way or another. They may, if they fail, and they clearly are failing to create some tensions between China and Russia, although they will continue to try, by the way. I mean, Trump and his inner circle openly are saying that they want to divide Russia and China, right? They are saying it openly. But also one should keep in mind that, for example, today J.D. Vance, vice president of US, is in India, right? And relationships between China and India are quite tense also. Unfortunately, both countries are BRICS member states, both countries are strategical partners of Russia. But same time, unfortunately, China and India have quite a tense relationships. There are some border issues and some other issues also, by the way. They are competing, right, for influence in the region. And unfortunately, there is also risk that Western ruling class may try to provoke military conflict between China and India, or between India and Pakistan, in which China will get involved eventually on the side of Pakistan. So therefore, this initial China-India-Pakistani conflict may go regional, right? In case of Chinese involvement. Also, we should not forget about Taiwan, right? So there are many directions through which Western ruling class may try actually to provoke a war against China. Well, if I can see all this stuff, by the way, I'm quite sure think tanks in China, in Russia, in India, in other countries, globally or particularly in the global south, also can see it. So therefore, hopefully, countermeasures will be put in place so that Western ruling class will fail to destabilize any region in this world. Let's hope for that. But risk is there for sure. Risk is there because Western ruling class, Western so-called elites, they are lunatics, by the way. Literally lunatics, right? So what you expect from crazies? That's how I see. And when it comes to deployment of European troops in Odessa, well, it might also happen, by the way. I think chances are probably less than 50%, because that will mean definitely direct clashes with the Russian Federation. But still, there is a chances that UK and France will try to rapidly deploy their troops, not just in Western Ukraine, but also outside of Western Ukraine, towards Belarusian border or towards Kiev, maybe even Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, and Nikolaev and Odessa too. And if that will happen, well, that will be a war between Europe and Russia. Very day, NATO troops will cross a border with Ukraine, risk of direct wider conflict between NATO and Russia will peak, and day when NATO troops will move east from Western Ukraine towards Odessa or any other place, east, south, north. Very same day, one may argue that direct conflict between Russia and NATO will start, because Russia will retaliate 100%. Russia will not allow NATO troops anywhere outside of Western Ukraine. And even in Western Ukraine, only way NATO troops can be deployed safely if Moscow is agree on that. If Moscow will disagree, if Western capitals will not consult with Russia, then deployment of NATO troops in even Western Ukraine would not be safe. So answer is yes. Is there a risk that France and UK will try, maybe even Poland, by the way, will try to deploy troops towards Odessa? Yes, risk is there. Will they do it, especially now when US is kind of drifting away from this proxy war? Will they risk it? I don't know. I don't know. I have some doubts about that. But clearly risk is there. Let's go through some other questions. No, here is commenting, chat, how can Odessa remain in Ukraine's control when MI6 used it as a launch pad and staging ground for maritime drone attacks on their Black Sea fleet? I mean, one example, one additional reason, dear friend, why Odessa cannot remain in the hands of NATO directly or indirectly, because it's just an immense danger for Russia, right? And this is one of the reasons. One should keep in mind that here in Russia, by the way, everybody considers Odessa as a Russian city because it was built by Russia, right? It's a Russian city. And one way or another, but me personally, absolutely convinced that Odessa will come back to Russia. You know, either through military means or through referendum, but Odessa will come back to Russia, as Nikolaev region will, also Dnipropetrovsk region and Kharkov region, at least, by the way, in addition to already liberated territories, and maybe even Sumy and Chernigov region, at least parts of it, potentially parts of Poltava region too. We will see. Or maybe entire Ukraine, with the exception of western part, which used to belong to Poland or Hungary, Czechoslovakia in different times, and Romania. I mean, Western Ukraine, different story. We don't care about it. We just don't care about Western Ukraine. Majority here in Russia, I'm 100% convinced, by the way, gives no damn about Western Ukraine, right? We don't consider it as a, majority I'm talking about, in my personal opinion, don't really consider Western Ukraine as something for which fight is worth. And we all remember that these territories were taken from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Romania by Stalin after Second World War, right? But the rest of the Ukraine is Russia. That's it. And either fully will join Russia if globalists will prolong this war. Either will entire this territory will join Russia, or if conflict will end in relatively short time, if Western ruling class will come to their senses and agree that acknowledge that they lost, agree on concessions to Russia. In that case, I think once Kiev regime's forces will be out of new Russian regions, then it would not be technically too difficult to organize under UN referendums all around in every region of this so-called Ukraine, and let the people decide, people that live there and people that are from these regions. Let them decide fate, where they want to be. But yet again, if globalists, if Western ruling class prolong this conflict in Ukraine, even without US's significant involvement, then Moscow will have no option but to go all the way until either Polish border, although I don't really want that, or until border with the Western Ukraine, which will include liberation of Kiev also, obviously. Nidish Kumar is here. Hello, Nidish. And once again, dear friends, hello, everyone, and many thanks for your attention, for participating in this community chat. And Nidish is asking, Levan, China warning other countries not to do trade deal with the USA. How is now China different from USA? Same playbook, you are either us or against us. Yes, it is true. It is true, absolutely. I mean, I'm on same page with you. China and US both are trying to pressure other countries not to do business with their main competitors. In case of China, it's US. In case of US, it's China. And this is unfortunate, but it's a trade war, isn't it? It's a trade war with a high risk, relatively high risk that it might turn into a hot war, into military confrontation at one point in the future. So therefore, seems like, at least for now, none of their sides are willing to stand down. And yet again, I mean, we are talking about economical dominant powers, isn't it? Two empires, by the way. We are talking about empires. China is an empire, economically speaking, maybe not politically empire, but economically it is, right? And US is also still maybe failing empire, but still empire economically and politically. I mean, political dominance and influence of US worldwide, which is, still exists. So, I mean, two empires are clashing, and they are acting quite similar in many ways. Although, by the way, one should keep in mind that China is an economical empire, and whenever China is investing in certain directions, usually they don't go into these other countries with their preachings, right, as US does, or the collective West. But that's nuances, isn't it? But both countries are empires, and they are, in many ways, are acting quite similarly to each other, as empires do, by the way, historically. I mean, this is nothing extraordinary in regards to US and China. They are not really originals. All the other empires were acting in a quite similar way. And it is going to be hard choice, isn't it, for many countries, how to balance between these two. For example, in India, government will have a hard time because, of course, they don't want to be in extremely bad relationships with China because, I mean, US is an ocean away. China is right there next door, right? So strategically thinking is that, India would prefer to have a good working relationships with China and as good relationships with US as possible, but Washington most likely will demand from India to distance itself from China as much as possible, and US might promise so much, isn't it? They will promise that all the factories that US companies have in China will move into India, and then process is already happening, by the way. For example, Apple moved its manufacturing plants, if not all, significant part of it, into India, isn't it? And India is now one of the major producers of their Apple's products, right? And there might be additional examples of that, but does India really wants to risk it and to be too dependent on US, or to become a tool of US against China? I don't think so. I think it will be better if India continue on the current line on independent policies, and if India will maintain strategical relationships with Russia, which will secure India much better than any guarantees from US. Just take a look at the geography, by the way. It will say it all, right? This is Russia, this is India, and China is in between, right? So strategical relationships between India and Russia definitely is a way to go forward for regional stability. And no matter how powerful China is going to be, as long as Russia and India, Russia and Iran, Russia and India and Iran, India and other countries in the region are strategical partners, then China will behave in a normal mode, let's say, and would not present any dangers to the region, generally speaking, right? But if India becomes tool for US, in that case, things might change drastically, isn't it? So we are observing clash of empires, by the way. So in many ways, they are acting similar, yes. Dear friends, sorry if I miss your question. Danny D while is commenting today, their Su-35S came into Russian Air Force service, a very promising 4th gen aircraft. Oh, dear friend, Su-35s are in Russian service for quite a while now, many years. Maybe additional batch of new planes were transferred to Russian aerospace forces. Probably you are referring to that. Of course, Su-35 is a 4++ generation plane, very capable, probably best 4th generation plane that there is. Some may argue that maybe Swedish Gripen is on the same level or even better. Some may argue that French Rafale is on the same level or even better, but I will argue that Su-35 is the top best 4th generation fighter jet that ever existed. That's my personal opinion, right? But this is not a new plane, by the way. Su-35s are operational and produced for a number of years now, for quite a while, really. And probably new batch of planes were delivered there to aerospace forces. And just a couple of days ago, there was also a report, and I shared this information on my Telegram and Twitter X page, that a new batch of Su-34 frontline bombers were also transferred to aerospace forces. So this production of military equipment is reaching whole new levels here in Russia, including high-tech weapons like fighter jets. And not just the 4th generation, by the way. Su-57s are also delivered, although it's a classified plane in many ways, so therefore information about Su-57 is obviously not as available as about other planes. Let's go through chat. Sorry if I miss your questions, dear friends. Local Susi Baka is commenting, Su-37 is better. Su-37s are not there are no such planes, by the way, in Russian service. There are no planes with such designation, Su-37. Maybe there are some experimental planes, but there is Su-27, Su-30, Su-34, and Su-35. Su-37, maybe you are referring to Su-33. That was, I believe, carrier-based plane. Yes, Wovin is commenting that Su-37s were prototypes. Yes, Su-37, maybe you are referring to planes that were prototypes of the carrier-based planes. And the modern Su-30s, by the way, are descendants of Russian carrier-based Su-27 planes. Su-27 UB, учебно-боевой, it's training and military planes that were eventually, as a result of heavy modernization, become Su-30, which is 2-seated planes, where there is tandem seat and the 2 pilots. Rest of the planes are operated with one crew member, 1 pilot. And Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, second non-alignment movement will be launched if things remain the same. We miss our Yugoslavia non-alignment movement, friend, badly this time. And you have a good point. Nidish. If things go this bad, and if these 2 major powers in this world do not de-escalate, then probably it will become necessary to create some second non-aligned movement and state on the world stage that, you know what, you do whatever you want to do, but we are not getting engaged in your geopolitical games. Maybe that will be necessary, as it happened during the Cold War, when there was this global confrontation between Soviet Union and the US. So you have a good point, absolutely, and let's hope somehow some cool heads will prevail, and Beijing and Washington will will find some common ground, because there is too much negativity in this world, isn't it? I mean, too much negativity, too much destruction, too much fighting, really. And why? It's just really too much, man. Wowin is commenting, F15EX is an analog to Su-35. Yes, I believe F15EX is the latest variation of the F-15, which is a great 4th generation fighter jet, by the way. Probably best fighter jet US has ever produced, F-15s, and they have a best score ever among jet fighters when it comes to air-to-air combat. If I'm not mistaken, F-15s are top dogs in this regard. So yes, I mean, latest F-15s, they have somewhat similar capabilities as Su-35s do. But if it comes to close range fight, dogfight, by the way, although I understand that in modern warfare with this all beyond visual range fight and missile launches, of course, close range fights, dogfights are almost impossible to happen. But if it comes to it, if it comes to dogfight, I don't think F-15 EX or any other Western plane, by the way, for that matter, maybe with the exception of F-22, will have any chances against Russian Su-35. Nothing to be said about Su-57. I think in a dogfight, Su-35 will beat every 4th generation plane that West can produce. And also, I mean, F-35 not even a plane, by the way. It's garbage, right? So maybe it called 5th gen fighter, but F-35 is total garbage. So therefore, I'm not even counting that. F-22, I think F-22 is well capable dogfighter. But yet again, I mean, in modern times, when there is a beyond visual range strategies deployed by all sides, right? And planes have missiles that can be launched for 100 miles, for God's sake. In these times, dogfight is probably impossible. But due to extreme maneuverability of the Russian planes, including Su-35, I think in the close range, no one would have any chances against it from 4th gen planes. But F-15, yes, great plane, by the way. I think, yes, in the West, from Western planes, F-15s are best fighter jets, and F-22. I mean, 2 top fighter jets. Some may argue that Super Hornet is also a very capable plane, carrier-based plane, but I don't know. I don't know what kind of chances in the close range F-18s will have against Su-35. But anyways, let's continue. Daniel Arix is asking, why is the Western ruling class sending wave after wave to areas with nuclear power plants in the Ukraine war? I mean, just a day before yesterday, I believe, there was reports that Ukrainian drone was intercepted some 300 meters away from Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. So, only explanation I have is that they are psychopaths. I mean, they are lunatics, right? They want escalation. They know that these drones, highly unlikely that these drones, if they even hit reactor building, highly unlikely that they will manage to penetrate it. But they are conducting this kind of strikes to maybe harass a Russian side, maybe to employ this nuclear how you say it, threats, nuclear blackmail, part of their policies. When they try to say to Moscow that they are capable to go far away. And we know that they are capable, by the way. We know, and that's why quite a few times I did raise question, I did ask question, that if Western ruling class will continue with this constant escalation, then who would be surprised if Moscow will take preemptive strikes on these hostile states to at least to denuclearize them, right? To neutralize major military capabilities that they have. First of all, I'm talking about France and UK, because these are out of US. Of course, in NATO, these are two countries that have nukes. So if they continue with this constant escalation, would Russia be correct, to take a preemptive strike and denuclearize these two countries, France and UK? I think Russia will have not just right to do so, but even obligation. If Russian intelligence will, and by the way, I think if Russian intelligence will have undoubted, 100% information that London and Paris are 100% gonna send their troops to combat Russia, I think Moscow will have obligation to take action, preemptive strike. And as far as I understand, preemptive strikes are legit measures of self-defense based on UN charters even, right? So, they are trying to blackmail Russia, they are trying to harass Russia, threaten Russia, but we all understand without US, which used to be and partially still is, even if current government disagrees with the globalists, current government in US, this country for decades were main enforcer of the Western ruling class, isn't it? This is just factual. But without US, European states that are controlled by globalists now, they have no chance, isn't it? They can damage, they can hurt us big time, yes. But can they win against us? No, not even, no chance for even a second. And they know it, and that's why they are going crazy, by the way, Nidish Kumar is commenting Russian aerodynamics are top notch. Yeah, I think Russian planes are really, really, beautiful looking. Wonderful planes, if we take in account like fourth generations, MiG-29, Su-27, and next generations, they just look cool. And they are super maneuverable, and in a close range fight, barely any Western plane can keep up with our planes. But after all, if it comes to air-to-air battle, of course, it's all depends on professionalism of the pilots. It's just it's a main point. Better pilot will win, because these planes, all planes, by the way, or fourth generation or fourth plus generation planes are extremely capable, right? Being Russian or MiG-35, for example, or Su-35, Su-30, Su-57 is a fifth gen, okay. Or the Western Saab, Gripen, or Rafale, or F-16 latest variations, F-15. FA-18, by the way, is also capable plane, right? Should be. So if these planes go against each other, it will all go down in a way, which pilot is better, because equipment is more or less kind of has similar characteristics, isn't it, in modern planes. And Michael Kennedy is here. Hello, Michael. And everybody, hello again, dear friends. Hello again. And many thanks for your attention. Nikos is also commenting, I have a feeling that Ukraine will do something insane soon, like sending drones during a 9th May victory parade Western media will spin it as spoiling Putin's parade. Well, unfortunately, risk that masters of this Western-backed terrorist regime, globalists, will authorize some insane provocations. I also think this is a possibility. When, where, with what means, I cannot know for sure, but I'm quite sure Russian security services, by the way, working 24/7 to prevent as many provocations as possible. And on daily basis, literally on daily basis, Russian media is reporting about assets of their key regime secret services being arrested on Russian territory that were planning terrorist attacks. So Russian security services are working non-stop, by the way, non-stop, 24/7 to prevent these terrorist attacks. And in vast majority of cases, they are successful. But unfortunately, I don't think it is humanly possible to track down all the threats and neutralize all the threats. And unfortunately, time to time, these are terrorists that are trained and sent by Kyiv regime and its Western backers are managing to harm civilians here in Russia and conduct some terrorist attacks. But in vast majority of cases, Russian security services are on top of their situation, controlling the situation, and hopefully they will prevent any risks. But you have a good point. If you ask, are Western ruling class, globalists and their assets in Kyiv regime capable of conducting such provocations? Answer is yes, 100%, undoubtedly. Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, will Russia develop loyal wing man drones for their Su-57? These drones already are developed. In the process of development, Akhotnik, by the way, S-70, currently designated as S-70 or something. It's Akhotnik name, working name of that drone. It's a wing type of plane, reactive plane, which should operate as a wingman of their Su-57. And unfortunately, some time ago, about a couple of months ago, one of these Akhotnik drones actually crashed in a zone of special military operation. Probably it was conducting, Russian side was testing probably this drone, its military capabilities, and something happened to the drone, and Russian pilot, by the way, actually opened fire on this drone and shut him down. Probably you have seen video of that. It was a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, approximately. So maybe plane lost control over the drone. These drones, as far as I understand, have artificial intelligence, and maybe drone was no longer obeying orders or something. Something definitely went wrong. And so Russian pilot launched a missile to intercept this drone and destroy it. And fragments of this drone fell down, parts of it at least, are on Kyiv-controlled territory, I believe, and probably already been sent to Washington, or not in Washington, but to Lockheed Martin, for example, or Boeing, to examine what kind of materials being used and what capabilities, potential capabilities of this drone is. And dear friends, let me thank Carlos Gaspar for donation on Boosty. There is no comment, but there is donation. 776 rubles. Boosty automatically exchanges currencies. No matter which currency you're going to donate, Boosty will exchange it in rubles automatically, and then automatically will send to my account. So this way, Boosty is quite easy platform to use. So Carlos Gaspar, many thanks for support of my work, for your attention and donation. So yes, answer is yes, Nidish. This drone is already in operation. Not in operation, but in a testing phase. This wingman sort of drone. Daniel Henriks is commenting. What I mean is they want to take their plants for some reason. You mean this recent idea that Western media reported that Trump wants, or US administration wants, some neutral zones to be created around Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and these territories or the plant itself to be controlled by US. This is nonsense, by the way. I did comment on this matter in today's first update, and I mean, this is non-starter, absolutely non-starter. As many other ideas that Washington is throwing on the table right now. For example, this morning I did reported about not just this idea of nuclear power plant, but also what was it, man? There was another idea that was generated by White House that is also a non-starter, or to freeze conflict on the current line of contact, which is not happening, isn't it? Because all these new regions are Russian territories based on Russian constitution, right? So therefore, in no circumstances Russian president will ever can agree to freeze the conflict on the current line. All Russian territories have to be liberated, and I think it is possible that Washington is throwing all these ideas on the table just to prepare ground for its departure from this proxy war, because seems like, maybe I'm wrong, by the way, but I think current administration in US and whatever forces are behind it, they really want to pull out US from this proxy war. I think they really think that this is not their war. This war is a globalist war, because it was globalists that were in charge of US when they start escalating against Russia while actively using US. It started during the Biden's administration when coup d'etat happened in 2014, during the Obama's administration, by the way, sorry. When coup d'etat happened in Ukraine in 2014, and military or hot phase of the conflict was provoked in 2022 when Biden's administration was in place, right? So I can believe that maybe current leadership of US, public or shadow, maybe they really think that this war is not their war. This is globalists' war, and they want US to be pulled off from this confrontation so that they will focus more on some other directions, right? But yet again, and maybe that's why they are throwing these crazy ideas, to basically pave the ground for US withdrawal. But in other hand, one should also keep in mind that maybe this administration, current leadership of US, thinks that this is not their war, but we see situation differently, right? Biden or Obama, they were acting not as a private citizens, isn't it? And harm that was done to Russia, to Russian citizens, was done as a result of aggression from US and US involvement into this proxy war, right? Direct involvement. Not just weapon deliveries or munition deliveries, but direct involvement, which means intelligence sharing and direct involvement of US military specialists to conduct all these to plan military operations, to launch long-range weapon systems against Russia, and so on, right? And I believe in order to pull out US from this conflict and to be sure that Russia will not seek revenge, at least on a state level, I think Washington has to, maybe not openly, not publicly, but at least behind the closed door, has to acknowledge that they lost this proxy war. Collective West lost this proxy war, and Washington has to agree, maybe yet again, maybe not openly, so that Washington will save face, but they have to agree behind the closed doors on concessions, on very serious concessions to Russia, so that Moscow will seek no revenge on a state level, at least on a state level. One should always keep in mind that due to US involvement, many people here in Russia lost their family members, their comrades, right? And these people, these groups, Whenever they will have opportunity to revanche, they will. But at least this would not be a state policy. If, of course, if Washington will acknowledge that they lost this proxy war and if they will agree on the concessions. And Moscow will, I'm quite sure Moscow will tell them what these concessions going to be. So if they will agree on that, okay, they might pull out from this proxy war relatively safely. And that's why, maybe, all these demands and the strange ideas that they are generating, but this may be just preparation of the ground for US pull out. Because no one will seriously consider any neutral territories in Zaporozhye region. It's just nonsense, right? It's a Russian region, and that's it. End of story, period, and nothing to talk about after that. It's a Russian region and will be fully liberated and fully controlled by Russian authorities. That's it. And same goes for Kherson region, same goes for DPR and LPR. Michael Kennedy is commenting that Ukraine is already using women as a combat soldiers. This is true, Michael, absolutely, I agree with you. Unfortunately, there are instances already occurring on the line of contact when, as a result of long-range strikes, entire units of females are neutralized. Because, when you are monitoring movement of the Kyiv regime's forces from a drone, not always you are getting that close so that you can actually see faces of their enemy, right? And I remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a report about, destruction of a platoon of the Kyiv regime that was fully female platoon. They were sent to conduct some military operation, and Russian drone was monitoring the situation. Then artillery was called in, and this platoon was neutralized. And only after that, when drone went to drone operator send this drone to closely check results of the strikes, only then this operator realized that it was all female platoon. So it's absolutely correct, but they are not just kidnapping people from the streets, but they are also mobilizing females, sending females to the battlefield as a combat troops, by the way, not as a medics, but as a combat troops. And unfortunately, there are casualties among the females also. And unfortunately, because they are women, isn't it? And I don't think war is a woman's job. It's not a woman's job, and women should not be sent on the front line, man. Medic, okay, I can understand that woman was sent as a medic, by the way, but as a combat trooper, no, man. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. Maybe some Westerners will disagree with me and say that, you don't understand and you are not for equality and that kind of stuff. I don't care. Man. War is not the place for a woman. That's it. Only medics, okay, I can see logic behind that. If medics are sent close to front line so that they will treat wounded soldiers, but women should not fight the wars, right? Should not be sent to the front line as a combat trooper. That's how I see. And I don't care what other people think about this particular matter. Wars should never happen, but if it comes to it, then let the men fight these wars, man. Not the females. Nidish Kumar is commenting that, Levan, if Zelensky sends drones on Victory Day parade with their foreign dignitaries, will be his biggest blinder ever. I think so. I think so too, because, they may do it. They are psychos, isn't it? So you cannot exclude anything. they are well capable of committing any sort of crimes. But if they send drones on Moscow, large number of drones on Moscow during the victory celebration in a great patriotic war, that will that will be end of Zelensky himself. He is not gonna live after that much longer. And not just him, but Russia will go all in that case. And I remind you that time to time I myself reminding that that Putin, Russian president, in 2024, that was, isn't it, early 2024 or late 2023, that's Putin said that we have not even started yet. He meant Russia didn't even started yet when it comes to military activities, and he has a point. He is absolutely correct. This is a special military operation. If Russia starts the war, then things are gonna change, and things are gonna change immediately, and it's gonna become a whole lot more devastating for our enemies than it is now. So if Zelensky and his Western masters will dare to launch such provocation, then there will be consequences for that, 100%. Not just political consequences, but kinetic consequences. And Nikos is asking, I never thought I'd see this in my generation. Ukraine training kids for the front and the Germany praising it. Have you seen that Deutsche Welle report? Yes. I mean, did you notice Nazi insignia in that video? Probably you did, isn't it? What can I say, dear friends? I mean, they are indoctrinating in this Nazi fascist ideology kids long time. This is not something new. These camps were created even before 2022, way before 2022, even before 2014, I will argue. And Ukrainian Nazis were training in Western Ukraine. There was a camps where kids were sent to get indoctrinated in this neo-Nazi ideology, and also there was a training camps for Ukrainian Nazis in Poland and the Baltic states, even before 2014. Right? So, and when it comes to modern Germany, by the way, it's sad to see what is happening to this country. And if things continues this way, I will say puppets of the globalists that are in charge in Germany might actually, endanger Germany's statehood and people of Germany on unprecedented scale. Let's put it this way. Just like yesterday or day before, Merz was making some crazy statements. How Germany gonna lead the charge in Europe in this direction and that direction. He was making some crazy statements, and number of high-ranking Russian officials, including Maria Zakharova, by the way, was commenting on that and asking question for in what period of history Merz is referring to, making a parallel to Nazi Germany era. So, Germany is in big trouble, by the way. Big trouble. One may really hope that AfD, Alternative for Germany party, will gain enough support, and some other parties, by the way, that are for Germany. Not for globalists and not for some crazy ideas, but for German people. I hope these parties will gain more support, and they will finally, gain some power in country, and they will, if they are in power, then they will focus on Germany's German people and their best interests of their fellow citizens. In that case, Germany will have a future, right? But if this country stays under control of globalists as it is now, it's doomed, by the way. I mean, it's just doomed. Nikos is also asked, I already read this question. Alexander G is commenting, the Orange Revolution was a CIA project to 2008, right? Of course, by the way. I mean, if you are talking about beginning, I mean, true beginnings of the current confrontation between West and Russia, then we have to go even beyond 2008. After all, it was 2007, isn't it, when Russian President Vladimir Putin made a historical speech in the Munich Security Conference, when he was warning directly, right to their faces, Western elites, that if they continue to act disrespectfully, act as if there is only them and the rest is no one and nobody, world will end up in a dark place. And he was absolutely correct. Right? And then it was 2008 when Western elites, these globalists, break a Budapest memorandum, by the way. In the Western media and Western propaganda, there is too much talks, isn't it, about this Budapest memorandum, based on which Kiev regime, basically based on which Russia take back its own nuclear weapons from Ukraine, because Ukraine never had no nuclear weapons. It was Soviet weapons, and Russia, as a only legit successor of the Soviet Union, of course, had to take back these nukes from Ukrainian territory. And all this process was, I don't know why Russia was even needed this Budapest memorandum, but okay, that was different times, right? And according to this memorandum, Russia is taking back these nukes and guarantees, together with a number of Western states, security for Ukraine, as long as Ukraine is a neutral. But what happened in 2008? Western propaganda, Western public figures love to talk about Budapest memorandum, but they are forgetting that in 2008, in the Bucharest summit of NATO, Ukraine was invited into North Atlantic Alliance. Ukraine received invitation, not to map, but invitation, right? Statements were made that Ukraine and Georgia will join NATO. And in my personal opinion, and in opinion of many people, that was a breach of Budapest memorandum by the West, right? Am I correct? What happened little later, in very same 2008, globalists that were in control of US also at the time, they ordered Saakashvili, president of Georgia, to reignite a civil war in the country, in South Ossetia, and to provoke war with Russia. And to achieve this, what Saakashvili did, by the way, he ordered Georgian militaries to open fire on Russian peacekeepers that were stationed in South Ossetia under UN mandate. And of course, attack on the peacekeepers when a number of Russian peacekeepers were killed. Of course, this was the act of war, and Russia had to react on that. So Saakashvili, unfortunately, quite successfully managed to provoke military confrontation between Russia and Georgia, on the orders of the Washington or the globalists, right? And what happened after Georgia? Ukraine, there was a constant investments into Ukrainian Nazis, into all sorts of radicals in Ukraine. There was an Orange Revolution, and That was orchestrated, absolutely orchestrated, and that's why Yanukovych, by the way, became a president of Ukraine, despite their so-called lose during the previous election. And then 2014, when also CIA, obviously, or the globalists, orchestrated coup d'etat, bloody coup d'etat. You know. So one may count 2008 as the beginning of this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, because there is an argument for that. And I went through at least few episodes, right, that can be seen as an argument. One may say that this proxy war, hot phase, was started in 2014. Okay, I can see that argument also, but this proxy war definitely didn't started in 2022, by the way. In 2022, Russia officially reacted on a proxy war and started special military operation. That's what happened. You know? Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, what will be consequences of Canada joins without UK baking it? If Canada joins EU, you mean? If Canada joins without UK baking it, as I see, they are more narcissistic than Europeans. You mean if Canada joins EU, isn't it? There are some talks, by the way. You might be surprised about it because Canada is North America, and I mean, how they can join EU. But I mean, yes, there are talks about Canada joining EU, and I don't think this is going to happen. By the way, US will occupy Canada. If current administration or the current forces that are in charge of US will have intelligence that Canada's government or Brussels bureaucracy, globalists basically, really are planning to establish official control over the Canada by taking it into EU, then well, US will occupy Canada. That's how it is. US will send its troops. I have no doubts about that. Never ever US will allow Canada to become a part of any alignment which is not controlled by US itself. And it seems like currently US is actively losing influence in Europe, which is basically controlled by the globalists, right? Mainly. I mean, main economies in Europe are controlled by globalists. UK, France, Germany. Now, some may argue that, you know, Spain and Italy also controlled by globalists. Yes, I mean, Meloni did not really act as a leader of Italian people. She was acting more like a puppet of globalists. But now there is a new regime in US, right? New leadership that is more focused on some, at least verbally, by the way, more focused on traditionalism, more focused on ideas that goes against globalist narratives, and therefore Meloni or Italian elites may actually change the side very quickly. So therefore, I will say Italy is in middle somewhere, right? Not necessarily fully controlled by globalists, but when it comes to Germany, by the way, when it comes to France, when it comes to UK, I mean, this country is 100% controlled by globalists, 110%, right? And so, therefore, in no universe, US will ever allow Canada to become a member of any organization that is not controlled by US itself. So no chances on that. Just no chances. I think. Although they might try. They might try. It is unfortunate, by the way, what is happening between US and Canada. I mean, it reminds me somewhat, it's a different story, obviously, but in some ways it does reminds me what was provoked by the Western ruling class between Russia and Ukraine. I mean, we were seeing each other as a one people, or cousins at least, right? Brothers. And attitude between US and Canadians were somewhat similar, isn't it? And now, due to political tensions, people are beginning to become hostile also towards each other, which is really, really unfortunate. But, you know. Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, I meant without US backing in war with Russia along with EU. I mean, we will decimate them. Without US, collective West is a paper tiger. I mean, what Canada gonna do? Send its like 10,000 troops? If it comes to it, by the way, I still think there is a higher chances that it will not come to wider war, right? Sides will manage to de-escalate before wider war will be provoked. At least that is my hope, right? But if I'm wrong and the globalists will provoke wider war anyways, I mean, let's be real. Without US backing, Russia will decimate combined force of the rest of the NATO in a relatively short time. Let's say it's not going to be easy. Obviously, nothing is easy in this life, but I mean, we will just decimate enemy forces. It's going to be hell for our enemies, by the way, because Russia not going to fight that kind of conflict with their only conventional weapons. So let's hope it will not come to it, by the way. I really hope we will see some de-escalation, because I don't really want to see any more damage and any more harm to be done to people and you know. But yet again, if globalists will provoke wider war, I mean, without US, collective West countries are not really much for Russia in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we will just decimate them, in so much so that many of those countries might never recover and just might cease to exist. That's what might happen. But let's hope it's not gonna go that bad. Let's hope for it, because it's even if you think about it, it's complete horror, right? So let's hope it will not go that way, and we will see some de-escalation. What Canada? I mean, what they can do, man. I mean, Canadian troops. I don't know how many troops they have, but you know, take any Canadian division, by the way, any Canadian brigade, and any Ukrainian brigade. I think Ukrainian brigade will be 10 times more capable, and Russian armed forces quite successfully dealing with their Ukrainian brigades, isn't it? So, I mean, I can imagine, you know, Canadian brigade was sent to front line, and half of the troops probably will have a heart attack, for God's sake, in first 24 hours, or concussion or something, and they will just run away, by the way, because they have no idea what high intensity conflict is. They just don't. Deebzer is commenting, and on what evidence do you post that opinion, Levan? What opinion? I mean, we have talked about many topics. So what you mean? And when it comes to opinions, by the way, opinion is opinion. I mean, it's just we are sharing opinion. This is community chat. We share our opinions. In some cases, we might be correct. In some cases, we might be wrong. If you mean headline to the live stream, US aircraft carrier damaged, that's a Houthi claims, right? That's what Houthis say. It's not my opinion, that's what Houthis are claiming, and maybe it is true, maybe it is not. Until we will have some evidences that carrier is not damaged, then there have been some doubts, right? That maybe some missiles or drones of Houthis did actually manage to bypass air defense systems of this strike group and hit the carrier itself. It's a possibility. I mean, you know, if you mean some other topic, then yet again, opinion is opinion, right? You may have any opinion. It might be correct. It might be incorrect, but it's all okay, right? And dear friends, it's almost 2 hours. I just check time, dear friends. It's almost 2 hours. I have to end this live stream. Nitish Kumar is commenting. Levan heard some US politicians saying that they will export beef to India. Oh, come on, man, really? How stupid are they, though? Oh, this is no, man, this is so crazy. And those people called politicians. Can you imagine that? Crazy, man, crazy, huh? Unbelievable. I'm telling you, political class in the collective West is in decline big time. And politician that allows itself to say something like that, I mean, should be fired straight away. Should be fired straight away because it's insulting. First of all, for US image, for US reputation, for US political class, you know, because obviously Indian people not gonna pay much attention to some freaking psychopath from US leadership or political class, but you know, it's just too bad, man. What can I say? And dear friends, let's Jerry Kogan, hello Jerry. Jerry Kogan is commenting that that information about that we just spoke actually was from a parody account. Oh, if it was some sort of onion kind of site, website, okay then. But I would not be surprised at all. I mean, I really would not be. When you have such a people in the Senate, for example, as Lindsey Graham, I mean, what we are talking about, what we are talking about, you know. Wovin is commenting, did you see the meme today of J.D. Vance wishing the Pope good health and he died the next day? I did not see meme itself, but J.D. Vance is, I believe, last high-ranking official that met Pope before his death. So, yeah, I mean, you know, on this topic, I'm not gonna say much, by the way, because it's a religious. When it comes to religion, it's a very sensitive stuff. So therefore, I always restrain myself from you know, commenting much. I think this is a, you know, right way to go for me personally. Even though I myself, by the way, even though I'm Orthodox Christian, I may not be as religious as some other members of my family, but still, I mean, there are certain topics that are just too sensitive, so I have to be, you know, very accurate, you know. And so, dear friends, if I may, I will end this live stream now. Many thanks to all of you for your attention, for a great chat, You know, it's as I always say, by the way, these community chats are great opportunity, really. I mean, I always enjoy it. Great opportunity to have. It seems like you are actually talking to a person in right next to you, because it is a live stream, right? It is a live stream, and we are reacting in a real time. So thank you all for your attention and for joining the streams. Many thanks to all the members of our community who will watch this live stream in a recording later on. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Bye for now. And once again,